Things like this usually don't happen in a community like ours. It's very tragic.
Investigators release autopsy reports today for 8 members of an Ohio family killed execution style.
We begin tonight with a deadline that has passed for the mother of 2 missing children from Rexburg.
Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we are going to be doing a rundown of what took place in days 6 and 7 of Tyler McCain's preliminary hearing. As a quick reminder, Tyler is charged with the intentional death of his wife, Nikki Cheng Saelee-McCain, who disappeared after she was last seen on May 18, 2024. Prosecutors believe that Tyler took her life to prevent her from testifying against him on previous domestic violence charges that Nikki had filed. I went over all this background in my first video on Nikki, and if you want to catch up on that and everything from the preliminary playlist, I do have days 1 through 5 there. I've created a playlist just for Nikki's case. Now, before we jump into the details, please don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It really helps me out with keeping these updates going. Also, I would love to know, I do watch a lot of true crime, videos and podcasts. They're playing a lot throughout the day, and I definitely need more recommendations, so please drop those in the comments below. Now, I do want to pause really fast to say if you hear that loud fan in the background, that's my 3D printer. We had a show yesterday. I have a lot happening for my next show, but I did pause it in the middle of a print as I try to knock this video out. I don't have a ton of time today. My mother-in-law's birthday's tomorrow, so I have to go to her house in the evening, and I want to get this video out to you guys as quick as possible. So if you hear that, I'm sorry. But just as a reminder involving this case, there are no cameras or videos allowed in the courtroom. Everything that I'm sharing comes directly from reporters and people inside the courtroom. So day 6 was a rough one. From what I was able to gather, there was only one witness on the stand, a man referred to in court as confidential informant. But honestly, I don't know why they call him that, since in his testimony, his name was said. But we're going to go with Albert. Now, Albert's sister Felicia was dating Justin, the guy who lived in the trailer. There's a lot of names here. She actually testified earlier in this hearing explaining that for a while she lived with Justin in the trailer. That's where she met Nikki. But it doesn't sound like the couples really interacted that much. I mean, Tyler and Justin obviously interacted. They're cousins. However, I don't think the couples themselves did. Albert would sometimes stay in his sister's trailer or even sleep in his car on the McCain's property. When it came to him coming into the courtroom, Albert was wearing handcuffs chained to his wrist over a white shirt as he was incarcerated. He testified that he has known Tyler for about 3 or 4 years, and he met him through his sister, Felicia, and that he has met Nikki on several occasions. While Albert was on the stand, the prosecution played audio and recorded interviews. It was pretty obvious while he was testifying he didn't want to be there. He definitely made that clear. From those recordings, we learned that Albert told a Shasta County detective that when Nikki first went missing, Tyler had just come back from a rehab program in Southern California. And just as a reminder, if you're new to this case, in March of 2025, Nikki's case was officially upgraded from a missing person investigation to a homicide. So he's saying this situation happened back before March of 2025. Albert told detectives that Tyler drank a lot of vodka and used meth, and that the two of them would drink sometimes together. And in this occasion, this is what happened. So clearly that rehab stay didn't really help. Albert testified that at one point, Tyler broke down during this conversation and mouthed the words, "I killed her. I just fucking killed her." He told detectives that he believed Tyler told him this because he needed to get it off his chest. Albert explained that according to Tyler, the two of them had been wrestling, although in another article, I saw that Tyler admitted he strangled Nikki. According to Albert, Tyler said he had fallen asleep, and when he woke up, he saw Nikki unresponsive with vomit nearby. During this so-called confession, Tyler was also said to be worried about his children needing a headstone for their mother. A very weird thing to worry about in all this. But Albert admitted that at the time he told Tyler to shut up and he didn't want to hear anymore. He also stated that while his sister was living in the trailer, she told him that she overheard Tyler moving his truck from the back of the house into the garage, behavior that of course raised more questions about what he may have been doing at the time. Albert also told detectives in these interviews that Tyler had supposedly confessed to his own mother, Jeanette. Now, Jeanette took the stand herself earlier in the preliminary hearing, and she basically said that she had no idea about anything in regards to Nikki's disappearance. But according to Albert, Tyler told her that he was responsible for Nikki's death, and she just didn't believe him. And I have to pause here for a second, because if that's true, he had previous DV charges, Nikki is missing, and now he's telling you that he allegedly killed her, and you don't believe him. That's a serious problem. But again, that's if that really happened. Because when it came time for court Wednesday, Albert told the prosecutors that he made the entire story up. He testified that he didn't remember Tyler ever saying he killed Nikki. Albert explained that at the time he was facing jail time, he was an addict who wanted to get back out on the streets, and that he was still high on drugs, even days into the jail stay when police interviewed him. One of those interviews was played for the courtroom, and Albert claimed that Tyler had once pulled a shotgun on him. But on the stand, Albert said that all of that was bullshit. Now, I want to pause here again, and if you can't tell, I don't believe Albert. There are times when informants seem like they're really just saying things to get time off, and they really don't know what they're talking about. But in this case, I think that two things can be true. I think that he could have been saying that them to help himself to get back out on the streets and still be telling the truth. But now that he's up in court, basically being the one forced to testify against someone he once knew, the whole story feels shaky. Especially since it came out that Albert is currently serving time in, I think it's like 4 years, and he has still quite a bit of time to go. But back to his story, Albert testified that once detectives let him out of jail, they gave him 2 recording devices that he testified to believing they were about $9,000. Instead of recording Tyler, which were what the devices were for, he ditched the recorders and basically went on the run, hiding out in Shasta County. That eventually ended with a high-speed chase, and of course he wound up arrested again. Albert admitted that the only thing true that he said to detectives was that Tyler liked to tweak out on drugs and then fix cars. At the very end of day 6, the prosecution played a recording of Albert with one of the lead detectives in the case. Just before he was set to testify, the two could actually be heard yelling back and forth on the recording. The detective said, "Don't get up there and lie that you lied to me." And Albert shot back, "If you put me on the stand, I'm going to say I lied." He added that this was a big case and he wanted nothing more to do with it. But with that, we're going to roll into day 7. Things actually picked up right where they left off, with the prosecution still picking away at Albert. At one point, Albert flat out said he was done answering questions and that he would rather take a contempt charge. He pulled a Woody. "I don't know what's happening. I lied. Get me out of this." But then when it came time for the defense to question him, he had plenty to say. And that's where things kind of get a little messy, at least in my opinion. This defense attorney was actually Albert's former attorney. And if you'll remember at the beginning of the preliminary hearing, there was a motion to dismiss the defense attorney because he was actually an attorney of one of the witnesses. And I guess this was the witness, which is crazy because this is the witness that's recanting. But during this back and forth, Albert denied ever being paid by Tyler to fabricate a story or lie under oath. He also admitted that he had originally planned to plead the Fifth during Wednesday's hearing, but according to him, his current attorney told him the right to remain silent doesn't apply in this situation, so he had no choice but to testify or take a contempt charge. After Albert finally stepped down, the next witness on the stand was his sister Felicia. Remember I said she testified prior to this. She's Justin's girlfriend and lived in the trailer at the time that Nikki went missing. At this time, Felicia was asked whether she ever heard her brother say that Tyler admitted to killing Nikki. She testified in a soft voice, yes. She said Albert looked shocked as he told them that Tyler confessed to killing Nikki. Felicia also acknowledged that her brother has a long history with 5 different prison terms and that he is currently serving a 4-year sentence. She admitted that she is now worried that he's going to be labeled as a snitch given the testimony he provided in this case. She went on to share a troubling moment of her own. Felicia recalled seeing Tyler drive Nikki's truck into the garage and then pulled it back around the house. She said she also heard him moving something heavy around and then heard a loud thud. Following Felicia, Justin was recalled back to the stand. He was asked similar questions as to what Albert said to them. Justin confirmed the story, but slightly different. According to him, Albert told him that Tyler said, I did it. But Albert didn't go into detail what Tyler had exactly done, or what Tyler said he exactly did. Justin added that Tyler had once broken down in front of him saying something, but Justin told him to stop and that he didn't want to hear anymore. Even without those details, it was because Justin assumed it was the worst. Next, there was a detective that took the stand about some interviews that he conducted. One of those interviews was Larry, Tyler's cousin. He testified earlier, and Larry told the detective that Tyler was a jealous person. The detective also interviewed Luis, which was Nikki's, I guess, boyfriend at the time, although I don't know if he was officially called that. We're just going to go with that right now. Luis told the detective that before Thanksgiving 2023, Nikki came to his house and told him that her husband had beaten her. Luis also said that Nikki confided in him that Tyler had once fired a shotgun over her head and even tried to suffocate her with a pillow. And honestly, to hear that is heartbreaking. I need to take another moment to stop and say that if you are in a relationship like this, you don't deserve it. You deserve so much more than this type of behavior. You deserve to be safe, cared for, and respected. But the detective on the stand went on to explain that he had spoken with a man who found 4 credit cards in Nikki's name in a roundabout near Costco in Reading. After that, another detective testified about an interview he conducted with Michael, which was Tyler's brother-in-law. He also testified. Basically, it was just confirming the story that Justin had once asked him to pick up Tyler from a late-night random location. There was also testimony from another detective that obtained Nikki's medical records. And those medical records showed that she had missed a dermatology appointment that was scheduled on May 21st, just days after she disappeared. We heard from another detective who testified that he investigated whether or not Nikki may have left the country. He explained that he contacted the FBI and the Department of Homeland Security, but there are no records that Nikki had boarded any domestic or international flights, and there was no records of any border crossings after May 18, 2024. Next was one of the lead detectives on the case to take the stand, the same detective we heard in that disagreement with Albert before he testified. She went over a witness statement from Chloe's fiance, and just to keep it clear, Chloe is Nikki's sister. There's, like I said, so many names in the story, which is why I use generic names like detective and officer. I don't want to add even more names. So according to Chloe's fiance, back in June of 2024, he and Chloe went to go pick up some of Nikki's things, and while they were there, he heard Tyler say something strange. Tyler told him, "Everyone thinks I killed her. I was going to pay Nikki a lot of money to not say anything to anyone." The prosecution also entered Ring camera footage into evidence. The date I saw was listed as 2022, though I only saw that mentioned in one source. Just keep that in mind about the date. But the video reported the same across. It appears that it was during a time that Nikki and Tyler were estranged and Nikki was living in Chloe's home. In the footage, you can see Tyler banging on the door, yelling for Nikki to open it. He shouted that if she didn't open the door, he would kill her. At one point, Nikki could even be heard saying, "No, you're scaring me." And Tyler threatened that he would kill her and everyone else in the house. The detective went on to address Albert's interviews. She explained that she had been trained to recognize the signs of someone under the influence. In her opinion, Albert was not under the influence when she interviewed him, like I said before, days into his jail stay. As for where things are now, the prosecution said they have about 2 more hours of evidence left to present. Court is supposed to resume on Tuesday, September 23rd, since it looks like Shasta County doesn't hold preliminary hearings on Mondays or Fridays. But we'll see. I've already mentioned a few times in my last video that the prosecution was almost done or that they should be done by a certain day, and clearly they are not. I think that testimony from Albert was a bit messy, and they didn't expect for him to say that. You know, the last time that they spoke with him, I would assume that he said that that was a story that he was told. So then they had to call people to, I guess, rebut his recantment. But once all this wraps up, the judge will decide if there's been enough evidence presented for the case to move forward to trial. I'll be back with coverage in the following days, so stay tuned. If you haven't already, check out my entire playlist on Nikki's case or browse through the other playlists that I have put together. Stay safe out there. The world's been a bit crazy lately.